Comedy Cabin. How's it going? Thank you all for being here. I was almost a little worried I wasn't going to make it because I just flew in from a conference on the implementation of gender neutrality in the workplace. And boy or girl, are my arms tired. That's right, I'm not afraid to open with my best joke. I'll come right out here and go for it. Let's get to know each other. Is anyone here trying to be a better person? Give it up if you're trying to be a better person. Everybody else is like, we're fine. Why can't the rest of the world change? I was trying to be a better person, and I realized I'm just not capable of it. So I'm trying to balance things out just by doing some good deeds here and there. Like last week, I donated blood for the first time. That's where I thought I was going to get the applause break. You really are not trying to be better people. Anyway, I thought I was doing a really good thing, but the folks at Goodwill seemed to disagree. I'm not sure what their problem was. Somebody called the police. They could have just said no thank you. But I think I already know what this is going to be. But make some noise if you're a blood donor. Blood donors, give it up. Okay, a couple of good people. I'm going to assume the rest have Hep C. That's understandable. Life happens. We can't all control it. But yeah, one thing about donating blood to be aware of, the needle doesn't hurt too much, but they ask a really long list of personal questions. And I decided I would just try to have some fun with it. So the first thing they asked me was if I've ever had sex with a man. Yeah, I was like, absolutely not. We made love. Don't you dare make it sound cheap. It was special. It meant something. But then they asked if I have ever traded sex for drugs, money, or any other form of payment. Yeah, and I said, I haven't, but I also did not know that was an option. How might want to arrange something like that? Because all this time I've just been giving my love away for clout and because I want people to like me. And the last thing they asked me was, they said, in the last 4 months, have you been in contact with anyone else's blood? Yeah, I was like, only if you count my victims. Stab, stab, stab. Because, like I said, I was trying to be the fun guy at the blood center that day. They didn't seem to appreciate my sense of humor. They said they weren't going to use my blood. And I said, all right, well then I will try taking it to Goodwill. And that brings us back around to the start of that joke. It's very narratively satisfying. I'm in a little bit of a situation right now. I'm looking for a new place to live. My roommate's kicking me out because I caught him masturbating. And that might sound like a little bit of an overreaction, but I think the reason he's so upset is because I used a net. You know what I mean? I was like, I caught you! I knew I could get him too. That's what I wanted to prove. I knew I was going to get him if I just left a pile of Playboys sitting in the open. It takes a masturbator to catch a masturbator. That's the moral of that joke. I'll quit goofing off, though. I'll tell you something real about myself. I'm a former teacher. No, in that case, the silence actually was the appropriate response, because I was not a good teacher. I didn't last very long because I found out I'm a terrible authority figure. I always had a really hard time telling my students no, especially when they asked if I was looking to buy weed. Because I did not like lying to them. And also, I was kind of relying on the discount they were willing to trade me for a C-. You cannot afford to turn down a good deal on a teacher's salary. I think that marijuana actually made me a much better teacher, and I have some evidence to back it up. What I noticed was after I started smoking weed, all of my students' grades drastically improved. Yeah, their essays had been pretty hard to read before, but now I'm like, oh, I get it. Their spelling mistakes used to infuriate me, but now I see them as fun word puzzles to solve. I'm like, A, C, X? What was he even going for here? I had been giving those kids a lot of Fs, but suddenly I'm giving them FOs. For far out. It's the first time a student ever gave me an apple, and I promptly turned it into a pipe and got high out of it. We had a good thing going for a while. I love doing comedy like this. I like getting out on the road whenever I can, but sometimes I end up driving through dangerous situations. Last summer, I was out and I was going through the rain. It was real heavy. And apparently, I went right through a tornado Oh, this is embarrassing. What's the bad one? Watch or warning? Warnings where they've seen it? Okay. I have a hard time keeping those two straight because I've never lived in a mobile home. So it's never been pertinent to my survival. But yeah, I went right through a tornado warning, and it said seek shelter immediately. And I had no clue because the tone they use for severe weather is the same tone they use for an Amber Alert. So I just ignored it, like we tend to do. You know, I was like, geez, who is out kidnapping kids in this weather? What a competitor. No days off. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I suppose there's never going to be an easier time than a downpour to lure someone into your windowless van, right? You don't even need candy when you can offer salvation. Just ask the Catholic Church. Taking them down. I'm a college graduate. Once more, hold those applause. No, don't do it, because it took me 7 years, and I don't think that should even count. After 7 years, it's not a diploma anymore. That's a participation certificate. I didn't earn a degree. They just got tired of watching me eat by myself in the cafeteria. They were like, look, you're taking up an entire table. Just take this piece of paper and go look for a job. I think you're depressing the janitor. Really, the only reason it took me that long is I couldn't decide what I was actually going to school for. When I finally did declare my major, I had to do it the same way you would pick a prize at Dave & Buster's, by bringing all of my credits up to a desk and saying, look, I really just got to get out of here. What can I get with these? Please tell me there's something. And that's how I got an English degree. I would have been so much happier with one of those plush basketballs, because I would have known how to use one of those. The only time I use my English degree is when someone asks me how I'm doing, and I say well instead of good. And usually I don't even do that because, like I said, I want people to like me. I'm happy the weather is getting warmer now. I'm not a big fan of the cold, and I think my least favorite thing about cold weather is it gives me a runny nose, and I get really self-conscious when everyone hears me sniffling because I worry they're going to think I'm doing cocaine, and I don't want people to think that because I don't want to share. That's my cocaine. I worked hard for that. But I don't want to give the impression I'm a bad role model up here, so I will tell you, I don't actually do cocaine. I prefer fentanyl. Fentanyl, this dick in your mouth. What do I do with that joke, you know? I know it's immature, but next time I'm here, I'm going to have t-shirts that say that. So start saving your money up right now. I guess while we're being a little immature, I'll share this with you. This is a fun fact I just learned. I just found out one of the most expensive liquids in the world is racehorse semen. Yeah, has anyone else heard this? Recently, a gallon of thoroughbred sperm sold in an auction for $5 million. Right? That just makes me laugh because to the untrained palate, that's going to taste exactly like Clydesdale. I mean, you're just paying for a brand name at that point. Unless you're some kind of horse cum sommelier, you know? But if you do want to look like a baller at the club, there you go. There's how you really impress your date. I'm dating right now. I'm recently single. My last girlfriend broke up with me because she said I'm too pretentious. Yeah, I'm fairly certain she meant condescending. I can be a little pretentious, though, I will admit that. One time she walked in on me, and I was reading a book of existential philosophy, and she rolled her eyes at me. She was like, oh my God, are you for real? I was like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I'm pretty certain that's the moment our relationship stopped being for real. But I'm dating again, and it's going okay, but I think I'm done using the apps. I had a bad experience last time I met someone that way. I showed up for my date, and I had run out of contact lenses, so I was wearing my spectacles. You know, thought maybe I'd look smart. She apparently didn't like that because the first words out of her mouth upon seeing me were, ew, you wear glasses? What do you say to that? I was like, only when I need to see. And maybe, I'll admit, it had been a little deceptive of me because I wasn't wearing the glasses in my profile picture. But it was a little deceptive of her because in her profile she wasn't a huge bitch, so. Maybe we can just admit we both bent the truth a little and call it a wash. Anyway, you don't gotta worry about me too much. I think I dealt with the situation pretty well. I just took my glasses off and said, there, now we're both more attractive. Oh yeah, that felt good. Might be the biggest win I've ever gotten on a date. I almost walked out of that coffee shop with my head held real high, but then I turned around and knocked over a rack of postcards. Because I should have put the glasses back on before making my dramatic departure. I'm an introvert, although I don't like to talk about it. Any other introverts in the room? You can keep it to yourselves. I know that's what's best. I think the reason for my introversion is I don't like getting pinned down in bad conversations with strangers. Sometimes I have a hard time getting myself out of it. I was at a party recently and I was talking to a coworker's friend, and out of nowhere, with very little context, he referred to himself as a Bigfoot guy. This suggested two conversational paths to me, one of which I really didn't want to go down. The first, and the one I was hoping for, was that he said, Bigfoot guy. Yeah, I'll talk about the Sasquatch, let's go. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. But my greater concern was that what he said was, I'm a Bigfoot guy. I'm like, look, I just met you, I don't want to talk fetishes. Anyway, it turned out it was neither of those things. He hates the metric system. Which, of any of those conversations, that's the one I'm least interested in having, honestly. So now I really had to get out of it. I asked him if I could suck his toe. And he went out to the yard. Alright, that was for the geniuses in the audience. I'm sure you heard I'm here from Milwaukee. Oh yeah, everyone explain the joke to your friends. Let's all have one more good laugh at it. Yeah, I'm out here from Milwaukee. I've lived in Milwaukee my whole life. That means ever since my entire adult life, anytime anyone finds out where I'm from, there's only three conversations they want to have with me. Either they want to talk about beer, cheese, or Jeffrey Dahmer. You all heard of him? Milwaukee's most famous son. That says a lot about the national outlook about Milwaukee. They think life there is so bleak that you deal with it by either drinking your feelings, eating your feelings, or eating your neighbor. Which is why the last thing I ever want to do in Milwaukee is hang out with someone who's sober and lactose intolerant. Because how are you quieting those demons? I think growing up in the city where Jeffrey Dahmer happened messed with my head a little bit, because I was like roughly in middle school at the time, and I was into scary stuff, so it was like horrifying to find out that could really happen. And I was talking to my cousin about it. I was real scared, and I said, this guy's in Milwaukee. What if he gets out of jail? What if he comes and kills me? And my cousin said, you don't have to worry about that. He only kills gay guys. And I was like, oh, cool. But then I asked myself, what if I'm gay? And that's the first time I've ever had that thought. And to this day, I gotta tell you, it really concerns me that I'm not sure if my heterosexuality is the product of nature, or if Jeffrey Dahmer scared me straight. And it messes with my head a little bit knowing Jeffrey Dahmer might have a role in my psychosexual development. But I'm happy we're moving in a slightly more sensitive direction as a society, and I'm glad we're being a little bit more considerate of each other's identities. And I think the next step is we should separate playful bullying from casual homophobia. I was out getting barbecue food with a friend of mine, and I don't like to get really messy when I eat, so I was using a fork for my ribs. I don't think that should be a big deal, but my friend said that was gay. And I think that's a little unfair, because I don't see anything inherently gay about using silverware. But do you know how he proceeded to clean off his fingers? Yeah, by deep-throating each and every one. Just all in there at once, like a mama python trying to swallow 5 of her babies. It's really getting in there. And I gotta say, I thought that was a little gay. Because I was pretty turned on. I was like, geez, we've known each other all these years and I'm only now finding out you have no gag reflex? I mean, the entire fist, it was hot. I spilled a bowl of barbecue sauce on my lap. I was like, me next! So yeah, let's knock off the casual homophobia, but let's also cut out the cock teasing, all right? This is fun. We're having a fun time. I'm glad to be here talking to you. I had an unpleasant interaction on the way. I stopped at the gas station, and I was paying with my credit card, and I put it in the chip reader. And the gas station cashier told me I wasn't putting it in hard enough. And that's not something I like to hear. Well, what can I do? I put it in harder, and then the cashier told me I wasn't putting it in deep enough. And I was like, I don't even see how that's different from hard enough. But I'm a people pleaser, so I put it in deeper. And then the cashier said, maybe if you try spitting on it and swiveling it around a little. And I said, all right, I don't think we're still talking about my credit card. But I'm going to stop you right here and tell you this is all feedback I've never received in the bedroom. Because there I always pay cash. Or Venmo. If they're caught up in modern transactions. This is fun. I love doing comedy a lot. I'm always working on my craft as a comic, so I took an improv workshop recently. Are you all familiar with improv comedy? It's a little different from stand-up. In improv, you take suggestions from the audience and you make a scene out of it. Stand-up comics can't take suggestions from the audience because we are actual artists. It's just in case there's any improvers in the room, asserting my dominance. Let's try doing a little improv exercise here together. I think this could be fun and engaging. Let's do a scene. We'll say the setting is a comedy club. That shouldn't be hard for us to imagine. I'll be a stand-up comedian. And if all of you would please be a better audience. Just like that. So I'm as sarcastic in your laughter as possible. You've already been great, actually, but you can always be better, you know? So I was taking this workshop, and the teacher was laying out the ground rules for us. She said it was going to be a clean class. And she said, that means no swearing, which includes the R word. Now, my problem here is I can think of several upsetting words or phrases that start with the letter R. So I had to stop her and ask. I said, hold on one second. When you say the R word, do you mean racial slurs? I feel like we shouldn't be saying those. And she said, no, retard. Yeah, and it got dead silent like this. And I said, look, lady, I was just asking a question. That was uncalled for. And might I add, I don't think we should be saying that word. And she told me, no, that is the word we're not allowed to say. And I was like, oh, I feel so dumb. Does that mean racial slurs are on the table? And she told me to shut my cracker mouth. I was like, that is one suggestion I'm willing to take. But I suppose to leave you with a good message, I think one thing very easy we can all do to just make things a little easier for everyone else is just listen. Make sure to actually listen instead of making assumptions. That's what I've been trying to do lately, and I've found out I've been wrong about a lot of the things I've assumed over my life. One of my coworkers was upset, and I asked her what the problem was. She told me a guy on the street had just called her the worst thing a man can call a woman. And here's where I made one of those assumptions. I said, oh no, he called you the C word? That's the one thing I've always understood you're not supposed to say. You don't use that word unless you're basically declaring war. And she said, no, even worse than that. And I said, what's worse than the C word? And she said, ma'am. You're nodding. I'm seeing nods. Every time I say it, I see nods, and I'm learning now. Because when she explained it to me, it actually made a lot of sense. And I feel awful because I say ma'am all the time. I always understood it to be polite. But after she explained it, I understood that what women hear is, hey, excuse me, pardon me. You dropped your scarf, you uptight old bag. And that's why it's a problem. Ma'am is culturally permissible. Women have to hear that all the time, regardless of how they feel about it. If you're arguing with a woman on the street and you call her the C word in front of a crowd, they're all going to have her back. You're obviously in the wrong there. But if you call a woman on the street ma'am and she starts yelling at you, she's going to look like a total cunt. Thank you so much, Comedy Kevin. This has been a blast. I've been Chris Schmidt. Give it up for Daryl.
One more time for Christopher Schmidt.